Hi, my name is Zainab Suboh, and I'm here with Monica Solinas-Saunders for the Am IUN project. Do I have your permission to record and upload your story?
Absolutely. Yes,
Awesome.
you can.
Okay, so describe your family, and did you come from a big one, or?
I come from a family of two children, mom and dad, but we are part of a cultural tradition that we live near same community with extended family. And so I have a very large family from both sides, my mom and my dad. My mom was one of 8 children, and my dad one of 10. So I have a really large number of relatives who are always in your business.
I love that. And then did you have any fun activity that you used to do as a child?
As a child, my favorite thing was actually going to the garden and play with my cousins. I have several cousins of same age. In fact, my cousin Mauro, he was born just 1 week after me, and so I feel like I had a brother in addition to a sister. So those are fond memories. But I'm from an island, and gardens are also a few feet away from the beach, and so certainly going to the beach was always the best thing to do.
Oh, what island are you from?
I'm from the island of Sardinia, which is currently one of the regions of Italy. And it is located in what we call the Mediterranean Bay, between Italy, Spain, and obviously south of France. And it is north of Africa.
Oh, wow, that's nice.
Yes.
And then did you have any family traditions that were passed down to you that you still follow today, or that you just have fond memories of doing family traditions as a child?
Sometimes culture becomes part of who you are, so it is difficult to really pinpoint things that I do or that I have taught my kids because they were part of my traditions. I honestly, sometimes I feel like this is so who I am. But one of the things is that we're very proud of teaching our children, number one, to swim, because being from an island, one of the worst nightmares for parents is actually that you wander by yourself and then something happens to you. The other is we're very proud of our cooking traditions. So I have taught my kids to do everything from scratch, and I think I succeeded, at least with my oldest one right now. I think he's a great cook. But also to value family in many ways, and to be also respectful of other cultures, I guess. We in Sardinia we speak Italian, is obviously the Italian language for everybody, but we also have our own language, Sardinian, which is actually part of a protected cultural heritage by Italy and also the European Union Council, because of a indigenous population still living in the core of the island.
Oh, that's nice. I love that. And then I know you brought some artifacts. Do you want to show them to the camera and then just explain what they are and their importance
yes.
too?
So I brought. So the first thing I would like to show you is a flag, which is the original flag of Sardinia. Original in the sense of the last several hundred years. So it shows something that I would say it seems rather racist, but it is. And so I'm gonna explain to you what these four Moors are. So it's called the four Moors flag.
Want me to hold the other end for you?
Yeah, you can hold it. By I think people can see there's just four black men whose eyes have been covered by these bands, some sort of bandana. And what this represents actually it symbolizes the dominance of the Spaniards when they occupied the islands. In reality, the Moors already lived on the island of Sardinia. They had started villages, and in fact, the town where I was born was founded by the Moors. But the dominance of the Spanish people was so strong that we are more equipped, I guess. They really wanted to kick the Moors out of the island, and the domination lasted for over 400 years. And in many ways, they have we say they have uncivilized the island, because the island had actually a long history of civilization. There are still ruins of pre-Spaniard civilizations. And what the Spaniards did when they came, they started exploiting the natural resources of the island, which are countless. But the island was covered in woods, very similar to what Ireland would look like today. And they started this process that we call desertification of part of the island, because they exploited the forestry. So the idea was to scare anyone who would come from the southern part of the Mediterranean, trying to claim any stake in Sardinia. So during the occupation, the Spaniards made very clear that Africans were not welcome. So what does it mean for us? There are two things I want to say about this flag. One, I think this flag raises emotions, negative emotions, when people look at it, and it does to me. For me, the Moors were part of my ancestry as much as the Spaniards, as much as anybody who came after that. We also forget that there was an indigenous population of which I'm also a descendant. My grandmother is a member 100% of the we call them tribe, the indigenous population. The indigenous population lived around a chain of mountains, and they did not allow colonizers to come until maybe more recently. But they had their own ways of keeping people away. But the people living on the coast have been colonized forever, and so this island, to me, is the representation of decolonization, but also of the cruelty of the colonizers. And as much as I want the flag to disappear, and I wish we could have a different symbol, I also want the history to stop repeating itself. And I want people to know that human nature can be cruel. And we should always remember what happened to our people, to our ancestors, rather than completely sanitizing all these symbols. Now, the island of Sardinia made official changes to the flag, and the four Moors now have some sort of a summer look. The bandana is off the eyes, but to me still looks like they have been kidnapped, and maybe they're not blindfolded, but somehow they are inside the cross. So I don't know if the meaning has changed at all. Maybe it's less traumatizing for people. But I also want to remind everyone that I think if we eliminate completely these symbols, if these symbols disappear from museums or history books, then we would condoning also what colonizers have done when it is pretty clear that they have massacred other people, though, and they have contributed to the othering of different racial groups. So that is for the flag, and then I can show you maybe some other things. So very connected to the flag, we have these masks, but there are different stories about these masks. These are called the mamutones. So every year in Sardinia, in different villages, there are celebrations where they dress and they wear the mask, but they also wear all kinds of other props, including bells, the shepherd's bells. They some of the costumes really resemble the sheep, which is also a symbol of Sardinia, because we always say, well, like New Zealand, we have 1 million people living on the island, but we have 10 million sheep. In fact, shepherding has always been one of the most, I guess, most important activities because of the production of cheese. It's called pecorino sardo, which is one of the European Union protected products. So this, going back to the masks, there are different traditions of the masks. The masks, some historians believe that they always existed, and they were worn during pagan festivals to it's almost like wishing for rain because they needed rain for the pasture. And so that is why they would dress like shepherds, right? Some other historians believe that these traditions became a little bit mixed with the idea of kicking out of the island the Moors. And so they would wear dark faces to symbolize the elimination of the invasion. But and again, I don't know. There are competing hypotheses about these traditions. I like to think that perhaps the masks are much more they're friendlier, and they symbolize perhaps some sort of a ritual where indigenous populations really would be talking to nature rather than wanting to kick anybody out. So I like the idea. I also brought you some other props. They are, weaving baskets and carpentry. It's very common on the island. These are very traditional designs, especially this one. The costumes that we wear during traditional festivities also have patterns like this. They're very beautiful. I don't own one, but my grandmother had one when she was young. And I've saved the silver buttons from the costume. And so now it's very common for people, women from Sardinia, to wear this as jewelry. Some people have a little piercings that have same shape, but it's very elaborate. And obviously, the richer families had actually golden. They had gold. The buttons made of gold. My family has this. They are made of silver. So my cousins and I have shared the buttons that come from my grandmother's costume. I also brought you some pictures because I think the island of Sardinia is incredible. And geoscientists have studied the island for many years because of the compositions, the morphological compositions of the rocks. These are volcanic rocks, even though Sardinia is the only island, the only actually territory in Italy that does not have volcanoes or is not a seismic land, is not subject to earthquakes. It's very different. The geostructure of Sardinia is very different from that of the mainland of the Italian peninsula. So obviously, like any island, the beaches are absolutely picturesque in the Mediterranean with white sands. And I think anybody who's interested can Google it. This was a part of a trip that I did with my family. I live in Chicago with my husband and my boys, although now one of them is in college, so the other one is senior in high school. So, but the photos really can show you that most of the most of our pastime is spent outside, and certainly going to the beach is what we really care about. It's really beautiful. But also, this is something that my boys really love, having these reunions with cousins, and we really have huge tables of people, and you can see several generations. In fact, the last time I was there, my dad turned 90, and one of my youngest cousins had a baby, and so we would see these generations across and across the table, and I thought that was really neat. And my kids really love going there and seeing family. For them, is probably the most important thing is go home and I see all the extended family and grandparents.
I have to agree with the history. I think it's important to like understand the good and the bad of history and like just keep sharing the knowledge, because you can learn from it and like fix the mistakes. So I love that. And then I know you want to talk about your spiritual beliefs. Do you want to share what they are and how they might have affected you?
Sure. My spiritual beliefs, I consider myself spiritual, and I have profound respect for anyone's ways of achieving that. I don't consider myself religious. So I grew up on the island of Sardinia, and there are many traditions that used to be pagan, but then they have been mixed with religious traditions. I've done a pilgrimage with my grandmother, and there is a fusion of the different pagan traditions of Sardinia with the Catholic religion. But my family is also a different story, because while my mother's mom is part of this indigenous community, her father, we don't really know the story, but we know that they come from a Jewish heritage. And so we know that with my cousins and I have done some research, and we know that they were part of a transient community of Jewish people who came from Eastern Europe, but we don't know exactly who was the ancestor that came. So we're still doing some investigation on using the local community records, which are not as reliable as the records you might find in the United States. So we're still reconstructing the part of our history. My dad, that's where the Solinas last name comes from. It's obviously some sort of Spaniard Catalan last name, but we believe that the family were there on the island for several generations. Again, we're still trying to understand, but it is incredibly difficult, especially because both my mom and my dad only had a second grade education, and my mom's parents were completely illiterate, and my dad's parents had maybe elementary education. But this is to say that there is really not a lot written. Records are almost inexistent. So I don't know what exactly my religious background is. I can tell you that just perhaps like most Italian kids, Catholicism was dominant also on the island of Sardinia. And I have studied Catholicism, wasn't imposed to me. I was curious. But I also, once I reached maybe 8th grade, I decided that I didn't really believe in what was preached. And so I wanted to explore more spirituality on my own. I learned many different ways. When I was in college, there was a Jesuit monastery near the university, and I attended meditation meetings. I exchanged my views with other people. I also met people from many other religious groups. I took a class on religions when I was still on the island of Sardinia. In general, I feel like we should not treat other people differently based on our religion. If their religion is pushing you to treat people differently, I think you should question those values. You should question their religion. If a religion is suggesting that you are better than other people because you believe in one God versus the other, I think you should question yourself. I think you should be more introspective. Try to think, why do I think I'm better than these other people just because they don't believe the same God? And that to me is, sometimes we flirt with that idea, right? And it's very dangerous because that might push us to our neighbors, people who maybe we're sharing the same community with, but it can be really dangerous.
Yeah, 100%. And then, where did you attend school? And then how would you describe your student experience?
Sure. I've always felt like I loved school. I couldn't wait to be in school when I was little. My sister is older than me, and but just a couple of years older, so I could see that she would go to school and have so much fun. So even though my mom was a homemaker, I really pushed so that I could go and attend just local daycare center that had the kindergarten program. And so my mom said that I was actually in kindergarten for two years in a row because I was really good, very interested, and so they loved having me there. So I went to school early. I was born in October, so I went before my 6th birthday. I was in first grade, and I loved school. I just didn't quite like rules. So I just remember one thing that really traumatized me was that I'm left-handed, and I'm really a very strong left-handed person. And the teacher tried to correct me, and I really hated that. But at that time also classrooms really had a lot of kids, so you could sneak into the back and use the hand you wanted. But other than that, I really loved being in school. So I attended elementary, middle school, high school, and college on the island of Sardinia. I went to college away from home, about 3, 4 hours away, to the capital of Sardinia, and I attended a university at Cagliari. It's a very difficult name for Americans to pronounce. But Cagliari is the capital of the island, and it's a fantastic, beautiful city. The university was built on adjacent to a Roman amphitheater. So we had often theater events there next to the university. I loved being a student, but I also got lost because of the system. Nobody cared if you attended classes or not. It was kind of it was hard for me. I was an athlete as well, but in Italy at that time, being an athlete and attending university wasn't like here that you get a scholarship for one or the other. It was very different. I was a very good student, but I was afraid of finishing. I was terrified of the idea of finishing university. What am I going to do afterwards? And so, coming from a family where your parents didn't even finish elementary school was frightening for me. I didn't know what I wanted to be as a grown-up. So I talked to my professors about this anxiety, and they were like, "Oh, you're a perfect candidate for scholarships. We can help you." And so I competed for a scholarship with the European Union, and I had just finished college, and I moved to England a month later, where I studied for a couple of years. Then when I was there, the fear actually continued. I wanted, I mean, what it was that I loved university so much that I just never wanted to leave. And so, and then there, I had fellow graduate students who told me, yeah, just contact universities and see if you can do a PhD. And so I was so naive. I was reading a book about inequality. I was very interested in poverty and inequality. I was studying economics at that time, and my focus was really on the economic development and inequality. So I was reading a book by Kathy Blee, and it was really focused on inequality, but it also focused also on ethnic differences and integration. And so I sent her an email. I did not know where she was. In fact, I did not know that Pittsburgh was not in the UK. Like anything that sounds English to me was in the UK. So when I was living in the UK, I contacted Kathy Blee, and she responded right away. You don't even expect the right. So she said, "Oh, hi. It seems like I told her I was studying economics in the UK, and she's like, "Oh, that sounds fantastic, and you're interested in inequality. Seems refreshing," she said. And so she forwarded my email to the director of graduate studies at that time. It was a Professor Thomas Schott. He's Danish, and the next thing I can tell you is that I was going to the embassy to get a visa, because they informed me that the University of Pittsburgh perhaps I had a scholarship, and they were in the United States, which was like, okay, no problem. So European kids at that time were still moving freely without a passport, because it was the European Union. In the early 90s. So it was the first time I had to apply for a passport to come to the United States. And the rest is history. So I studied in Pittsburgh, and I finished my PhD there in sociology.
And then you played sports. What sport was it?
I was in track and field. During high school, I did both track and field, and I was recruited by a softball team. I wasn't very good at softball, but they wanted people who were willing to run bases, and I loved it. I think I could have been good at softball had I known that I had a vision problem. I knew I had myopia, but I didn't know the extent to which I had low vision. Coming from a low-income family, these were not priorities. So for the most part, I probably could have caught the ball more had I known that I had low vision that way.
Oh, yeah. And then how long have you been at IUN?
I came here to the Northwest campus. I came in 2011. I've been in other universities, but I chose IU Northwest for a specific reason. So let me tell you this. I think this is important because it connects me to Indiana. When I was still studying in Pittsburgh, I met my husband, Drew. We started dating there, but he moved to finish his PhD to Austin, Texas. So he graduated from UT Austin. And then because it was ahead of me, he finished earlier, and he was offered a job at Purdue University, West Lafayette, where he became a faculty member in the business school. So we, even though I was finishing my PhD, I tried to spend more time in West Lafayette. So then I got pregnant with our first child. So I moved to West Lafayette. So I finished when I was living in West Lafayette. But at the same time I finished my PhD, I also applied for postdoc there at West Lafayette. And I was very lucky that Dr. McDermott, who ran this, it's called the Military Family Research Institute. She hired me as a researcher in a postdoc position. So when I finished 2 years with the institute, I started teaching different schools. Ivy Tech was one of them, but I also started teaching at the School of Public and Environmental Affairs at Indianapolis. IUPUI at the time was IUPUI. And I absolutely loved it. I was blown away by the really the drive of the faculty. The dean at the time was Terry Baumer, a fantastic person, a very empathetic individual who helped me very much. And I really just wanted to work there. I wanted to be there. The students were adorable. So what happened is that so my husband job moved. So we moved to the East Coast for a while. I worked at the University of North Carolina at Pembroke, which is the only campus within a Native American community. It's very charming. After a year, though, my husband's job moved again to Chicago. So we were moving back. After I spent 1 year alone with the kids there, because, you know, for academics, you don't want to live in the middle of the semester. You have to look for another job. And so somebody from, I think was the dean of IUPUI School of Public and Environmental Affairs, who told me there is a position open on the Northwest campus, and the Northwest campus is way closer to Chicago than Indianapolis. So I applied there. I applied here, and I got the job, and I was so excited. And I only want to share this. And no, I'm not bragging about this, but I had 2 additional offers from schools in Chicago, and I chose these over those schools because I thought that IU was for me family. After my experience with IUPUI, I really trusted the system, and also I have to say, the other schools were very nice when I did the interviews, but when I did the interview at IUN, I thought people were just as crazy as I was. Something clicked. It seemed like I was feeling at home, and I just loved it. I loved the diversity, but not just because people were coming from different countries, or because they had different skin tone or different religions. But what I liked about the diversity was that in my department, especially in SPIA, there were people arguing different ideologies, different point of views. And since I teach criminology and criminal justice, I thought that was really enriching, because I didn't want to be stuck in a frame of mind that does not provide incentives for growth. So having colleagues with whom I could exchange ideas and formulate new research questions was really incredibly attractive to me.
I love that. And then what is your role here at IUN?
So right now I'm an associate professor in the School of Public and Environmental Affairs. And I like to think that I'm both an instructor and a researcher. I do a fair amount of research, especially on incarceration, and but also ever since I met our new director, I've been working also on the role of employees in organizations like prisons or other institutions of the criminal justice system. I teach both graduate classes and undergraduate classes. Right now, I think I'm teaching more statistics courses than other courses, but I also teach courses in public safety and prisons.
And what is, I feel you kind of answered this a little bit, what do you value most about IUN?
I guess the features that I described, they attracted me to come here, are also right now what I value the most. The fact that I believe administrators and faculty have a good relationship, even though I'm probably one of the faculty members who is willing to engage in an argument and in the fight to preserve the intellectual freedom, academic freedom, and also I'm very jealous of the ownership that faculty have accomplished with managing themselves, so running their own committees. And so I like the opportunities that we have here at IU Northwest, especially to interact with our leadership and share ideas without being punished for that, or even if there is a heated argument, we're still hugging when we see each other outside the library.
Yeah. And then if you could give advice to anyone who might be watching in the future, what might it be?
Just be curious, be open-minded, listen to other people. I know that it sounds like I talk a lot. I talk much more than I listen to. But when I do research, for instance, I really go to communities that are not my own, are communities that I never really had interacted with before, so that I can learn new things. And I listen very carefully because people might have had different lives, different pathways compared to mine, different trajectories. But in the end, we all come to the same conclusions that I think the meaning of life is really to learn about other people and learn to love what other people think and do.
That's beautiful. And then to end it off, is there anything that wasn't brought up in the interview that you wanted to discuss?
I just want to say thank you to you and everyone else who is behind this project. I'm really enchanted with you as a student willing to do this. And the fact that you have this curiosity, I want to praise you for that. And I think it's really the secret of a good life. So I think everybody probably knows that I did not become a faculty member because of the money. In fact, I can advocate for that. Better money is important in academia, but we have some privilege. You as a student here, you have the privilege of getting to know people that are different from you and learn new things. I would say just continue with this curiosity that you have.
Thank you.